Welcome back everyone. So in the last video, we solved investments in 2016, which was 42nd question in SQL 50 series. And in this video, we are going to solve department top 3 salaries, which is a hard question. So let's dive in. Okay, so we are given an employee table which has 4 columns: ID, name, salary and department ID. Where ID is the primary key for this table, department ID is the foreign key reference column of the ID from the department table. Each row of this table indicates the ID, the name, and the salary of an employee. It also contains the ID of their department. Now, there is another table, that is department table, which has two columns, ID and name, where ID is the primary key for this table. Each row of this table indicates the ID of the department and its name. A company's executives are interested in seeing who earns the most money in each of the company's departments. In each department, okay. A high earner in a department is an employee who has salary in top 3 unique salaries of that department. Now we have to write a solution to find an employees who are high earners in each of the departments. Return the result table in any order. The result format is in the following example. So in the first example, we have two departments, department with an ID of 1 and 2. So for the first department, what are the top 3 salaries? So top salaries are 90,000, 85,000 and 70,000. So we have to select peoples who have salaries which is equal to 90,000, 85,000 or 70,000. So first one will be Joy, then Max, then Randy and then Will. So we have these four peoples in the IT department who have the salaries in the top 3 maximum salaries. Okay. Now we have department with an ID of 2 and the top 3 salaries are 80,000 and 60,000. Since these are the only two entries, we'll include both of them, that is Henry and Sam. There is also a constraint that there are no employees with the exact same name, salary and department. Okay, so how should we approach this problem? So you see in the output table, we have department, employee and salary. Department, the name of the department, which is not in the employee table. So it is sure that we have to join the employee table with the department table to get the name of the departments. That's one thing. The next is we have to select the employee. For example, to select this employee, what is the condition? Should I select this employee? Let's see. So what we have to do is we have to check in the same table with this department ID, that is 4 of these entries and 1 the entry itself. We have to check that if there is any price that is greater than this price, okay, and if those prices or if those entries or the count of those entries is less than or equal to 3, which means we can include this entry. Let me tell you again. So to include this entry, we'll check in the same table with the department ID of 1. So these are the 4 entries and the 1 entry itself. We will check that in those entries, how many entries are there such that the price, this price and all those 4 prices. So all those prices, how many of those entries have price greater than or equal to 85,000? Let's suppose there are 4 entries that have prices greater than 85,000, which means that Joy has salary which is below 4 people, which means we are not going to include this. But let's say there are only 2 entries that have prices greater than Joy, which means Joy is the third person or the third in number in highest salary. So it lies among the top 3 salaries. So we will include the Joy. So let me write the query so that we can understand it better. So we'll select something from two tables, that is employee. Let's give this table an alias of E. Then we'll join this with department table, that is join with department D on a condition that E dot department ID is equal to D dot ID. Okay. So now these two tables are joined, employee table and department table. Now for each entry, we will be able to know the department name. Now, should we select this entry? So we'll write where the condition is that select count of distinct salary from employee EE, where now we have to select the distinct salaries which are greater than this entry salary. So for each entry, that is the current entry, we will select that for if the salary E dot salary, this is the current salary for the current entry. If this salary is less than or equal to salary, so this salary comes from this table, or we can prepend EE dot salary. So what we are saying is that for the current entry, that is E dot salary is less than EE dot salary, and E dot department ID is EE dot department ID. Okay, and if this number is less than or equal to 3, we will include this entry. So let me explain you once again. For this current entry is E. Okay, so if E dot salary, so the first condition is that department should match. So the entry has some department, and we will select all the entries from EE table that has this department, and from those entries we will select how many entries have salary greater than the current entry salary. Okay, if the count of those entries, now those entries may have same salary. Okay, so we'll select only distinct salaries. Let's say there are 50 entries which have salary greater than E dot salary. Now in those 50 entries we'll select only the distinct salary, right? So if the result contain entries which is less than or equal to 3, then we will include this entry, else we will not include this entry. So what we will include in the select is we have to select the department name, that is D dot name. We have to select name of the employee as employee. We have to select salary. Okay, so let's run the query. Okay, so we got the wrong answer. Output should be department employee salary. So we have to name our first column as department, name as employee, and then salary. So our test case has been passed. Now we'll try to submit this to see if the solution can pass all the test case or not. Okay, so our solution got accepted. Now let me explain the solution once again. What we did is we will parse or traverse each entry in this employee table, and for each entry we'll decide whether to include this in the final result set or not. Now the condition to include that entry in the result set is this. For example, for this entry we will see that if the salary of the current entry is less than the salary in this current table, so we want to see that E dot salary is how many behind the other employees. Okay, so E dot salary is less than E dot salary in the same department, and if this is less than or equal to 3, then we'll include this entry, else we'll not include it.